All right, good morning, you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Happy Saturday to you. Wanted to drop a quick video this morning, and a lot of you guys and the part of the group, we made 200, 300. Some of you guys made 600% on QQQ same day puts yesterday. Certainly a great time, certainly a great trade. And I want to talk about the mindset going through that trade and what I was looking for. Just a tremendous win yesterday, and I think we definitely needed that. That was awesome. So let's just go through it real quick. The first thing is, if you're looking at my screen, I'm going to pull up the QQQ chart, and you'll notice, I'm trying to show some of the newer guys here, like my setup, right, on Webull. Obviously, I have my trends and my support and resistances, and these blue lines are all set up here. I'm using Ashi candles as a way to identify strong trends on the downside. So they look very, very different than your traditional regular candles. Now, I do have a separate screen where I do have Transpider up using regular candles as well, because you do want to recognize some immediate reversal patterns just so you can lock some profits or start scaling out on trades. But if you look at this chart here, and compare this with the Ashi candles, you can see very, very strong trends and very smooth candles on the downside. So therefore, in these type of situations, when the market has a particular direction that it chooses versus like chop or, versus sideways, for the most part, like Monday, Wednesday, or I've noticed that Monday and Fridays usually have the best directional trade days. Okay. The rest of the days are just kind of sideways, right? But if you look at Friday, it was very obvious where the market was going. And, right here in the morning, if you see this blue line that's going across the screen here, this is the moving average 200 on the 5-minute chart. I don't use 10-minute, I don't use 1 hour. I use those to identify larger trends. But for the most part, day trading, you're going to use the 5-minute chart. So once, and the thing I'll say about Q is that the reason why we love trading it is because we can understand its movements. We know whether it's going to be chop, whether it's going to be up, whether it's down. We can understand the movements because we've been playing this for a long, long time now. And the one of the things I've always noticed about QQQ, at least in the last month or so, is that when it breaks down under the moving average 200, this blue line here, it tends to stay under it for about a day and a half. I don't know. That's just the pattern that I see. I'm not saying that's an indicator, but it usually stays under for a good while for the rest of the day, usually. All right. So if we look at this trade here, once you had a nice early morning pump and it actually couldn't break the moving average 200 and it started to slide down. What you want to do in the morning is be patient with getting into the trade too early. I've noticed that whenever I get into the trade too early, I'm stuck in it because it's going in the wrong direction. So you want to at least give it about 20, 25 minutes to see what's the overall trend in the market. And one of the ways that you do that is you hop over to NASDAQ, right? Or IXIC is on Webull. You can see on Webull what's identify the pattern for the day. All right. So if I look at, let's see what happened yesterday. All right, so this was the day before 210. All right, 211, we gapped down a little bit here. Inflation data came out. That's cool. All right, but once it found a base here, you can see that it started to create this descending, this inverse head and shoulder down pattern. Okay, so once I can see that NASDAQ is actually doing this type of movement up, down, in a channel, I can pretty much bet on it and go take a nap, right? Because I know that even though it jumps up, it's going to come back into channel to test it. And eventually, once the news on the Ukraine stuff broke out, then we really fell out of that channel. Usually, this type of setup is very ideal for put situation or go short. Even though it jumps up, it's making lower highs and definitely lower lows. So once I identified that this head and shoulder pattern or this downward channel pattern has been going on, I can actually just sit on the trade and not worry too much. Sometimes when you guys are in a group chat, don't panic, right? Don't panic if it jumps in the opposite direction. Watch for a pattern to be set up, okay? And you can actually scale into the trade or even buy more puts if we can identify a good short pattern. And this was one of them yesterday. Okay. So watch the NASDAQ on the 5-minute chart. You can use whatever candle you want, doesn't matter. But if I switch over to ASHA, you can see that this is, I mean, even any upward movement was pretty weak. Okay. The next thing you want to look at is, of course, the volume. All right. You notice that once we started heading downwards, even though there were some green candles, you can see that the volume was pretty lackluster. Okay. A little bit of more upward movement in terms of volume coming in right here in the mid-morning. But for sure, during the afternoon, once the news hit, you had significantly more volume going into the rest of the day. And then finally, a lot of volume coming in and try to save QQQ at the end of the day. Maybe people are buying it for next week for potentially a gaps upward, et cetera. But definitely watch out for the volume as well. Now, once it breaks the MA200, okay, the moving average 200, you can see my black lines, yellow lines, and my white and tan lines here. Those are my EMA 9, 15, 34, and 50. What I'm watching in this situation, now that we're trending under the moving average 200, you got to use other EMAs in order to see that, okay, is it going to do a reversal on me, okay? These little green candles here was not very much strong reversals for sure. Why? Because it simply rejected off the EMA 915 and stayed within those lines until it finally broke down later in the day. Okay. So you don't need to get worried, even though a green candlestick is popping up. As long as it doesn't break your EMA 9 and 15, I think you're good to go. Your 3450 should be your kind of like warning sign. Okay. Your 3450 EMA is sitting up here. So none of these candles after about 11:15 Pacific time, 11:15 Eastern time, exhibited any strength to cover or to go over the EMA 9 3450, okay, 3450 line. So therefore, you have a pretty good chance on sticking with the trade and maximizing that trade. When I get into trades, I don't like to trade like this, okay? For me, I want to identify a larger trend for you guys, right? I don't want to do this. I don't want to buy a call here, sell a put here. I don't want to buy a call here. No. Does that make sense? Because you guys can't get in it quick enough for me to scalp this, okay? Some days I'll do it, but Friday was very exceptional in the market, meaning that the conditions was just right for a big downtrend, okay? So obviously stocks don't go up and down, or stocks don't go straight down. They go up, down, up, down, up, down in this type of movement. So therefore, I can stick with the trade and everybody can capitalize on it because I want to get in on larger trends. I don't want to do 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. There's too much work in that. I want to identify a larger trend. Now, of course, if you look at the NASDAQ, this is a good trend here too, right? This rising wedge here. And it finally obviously broke off once the inflation data came out. Okay. If I look at the last few days of QQQ, there's been a lot of chop, right? This kind of chop I don't like. After this, the afternoon definitely was a good trade, okay? This, you can trade it, okay? But the thing is, it's still dangerous because the market conditions aren't right. I don't like that kind of pattern. I rather buy calls and sit on calls and puts in upward pattern, like such as this, or patterns such as what we saw on NASDAQ on Friday, all right? Now, with the Q here, you can obviously do the same thing you did with NASDAQ, right? You can just simply draw a trend line, all right? Take that high wick and you just kind of connect the wicks here, okay? And you can see that for the most part, right, it was following a pattern, okay? So you don't need to get worried or even, try to do a stop loss just because you feel like you already lost in the trade because in these type of situations, you need to exercise patience, go take a walk, come back, the trade is still there, okay? So that's a quick tutorial for you guys using a moving average 230 EMA 915 3450. And also, if you're going to trade Qs, watch your IXIC, watch what the NASDAQ is doing. In addition to that, if you guys are looking at my screen here, watch the VIX as well. We traded the VIX yesterday pretty well. So I bought VIX early in the morning knowing that it's going to be a down day. Had a pretty good, just pretty good sense that it was going to be a down day. And you can see that we bought it down here and VIX went to past almost hit 31 yesterday. So that was an excellent VIX call. All right. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys Monday.